Canberra developers to pay compensation. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heiser here, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I'm still working through my morning shine of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from abcnews.com.au. It's discussing, Canberra developers that need to compensate over misleading and deceptive apartment GST charges. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, I am an architect. And, let's just say one of the first times I was ever ripped off in business and owed thousands of dollars was by a developer. So I have pretty much steered clear of that sector and not really worked with them very much after that time. I've always been, let's just say, a little disappointed, and I find the fee structure that you need to enter into to win the work is very, very competitive. Very competitive. We tend to do a lot more commercial work, mining work, education work, not really that much developer work. We even did a lot of retail, guys. So my bias may come through here if I'm leaning towards the side of the apartment buyers. But I suspect I wouldn't be alone, particularly the number of construction issues that have manifested around Australia, guys. I will bring up, and we'll have a look at it in a moment when it loads up, the Google Map or Google Earth where I'm charting various projects. You've got Mascot Towers. You've got Opal Tower. In Sydney, we've got the Triangle of Fale. You've got Zetlands. You've got Sugar Cube. You've got a whole series of buildings. You can see Darwin. There's some in WA, Melbourne, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Newcastle. All ranges of issues. I'm having people tell me issues, ring up and tell me. Problems with regards to fire separation between apartments. That's a big one. Bringing people on site who aren't qualified, who can't even speak the local language. So, my biases are, let's just say, I suspect justified, but we'll see. We'll see. So Canberra developers to pay compensation over misleading and deceptive apartment GST charges. The GST. But when you're studying architecture, to become an architect, you need to do a registration exam. And in that exam, they had all these GST questions because it added just another layer of complexity to all the contract administration. It's fun and games, guys. Fun and games. 3 of Canberra's biggest property developers will pay compensation for misleading and deceptive conduct in charging home buyers GST on apartments. The federal court last week ordered Belconnen Lakeview, a company of the Hindmarsh Group, to pay a Canberra woman $29,914. The finding comes as a class action against a 136-unit Governor Place in Barton, a joint venture between Morris Property Group and Doma Group, is awaiting the court to approve a $2.5 million settlement. I mean, oh boy, I've had viewers contact me who's living in apartments in Canberra, just some of the construction issues they've identified there. And one thing with Canberra is it's a unique sector. We can see that from the property data information. During the recessions, their commercial sector hasn't taken a hit as much as other parts of the nation, for obvious reasons. It's civil servant world. It's separate from reality, guys. Hey, maybe we just need to wall up Canberra. What do you reckon? Turn ASCT into its own country. You think that'll be good for the nation? Let me know in the comments. The separate legal tussles were sparked by a New South Wales federal court finding in 2010 that GST was not payable on new units built on leasehold land because they were not considered new. All land in the ACT is leasehold, and the decision was valid at the time of an apartment boom in the territory, meaning GST could have been incorrectly charged to buyers in more than 20 projects. 20 projects. 20 projects. And how many apartments are in these projects? 100? The legal loophole was closed after changes were made to GST laws in 2011. Last year, buyers of apartments in the Altitude Apartment Complex in Belconnen and Governor Place in Barton filed class actions in the federal court, accusing the developer of charging them GST when it was taxable and pocketing millions of dollars in proceeds. The Belconnen, what am I saying? Belconnen, yes, not Belconnell. The Lakeview, we'll call it, developed the 352-unit altitude apartments, while the 136 Grosvenor Place project was by Barton 9 and 13.9 Barton. So you can see these are decent-sized projects, guys. There's a lot of, 10% on each apartment, on each sale price. That could cover a lot of your marketing costs. That could cover your real estate costs. That could be a big chunk of your profit right there. The case alleged the developers entered into contracts with buyers that specified GST was payable, but prior to settlement, the developers obtained a private ruling from the ATO changing the tax status from tax supply to input taxed. The developers allegedly then failed to tell buyers GST was no longer payable and kept the windfall for themselves. Do you think this was just a accounting error, or do you think it intentionally happened? I wonder, guys. I hope it was an accounting error. I really do. I hope it was an honest mistake. I suspect it isn't, but I hope it was. In response, the developers argued that buyers agreed to pay the sale price for the unit irrespective of whether GST was payable and the time frame in which to make a claim had expired. Okay, so no, they knew all about it. They knew all about it. They just said that was the fixed price. This is the thing, when you have a price, don't you need to advertise GST as well? Shouldn't that be a separate line item? So Canberra apartment owner awarded nearly 30 grand. Well, that's a big chunk of money, guys. 30 grand, 20 grand. That's a serious coin. If you don't think that is, you're doing much better than most people in our nation. In December, Justice Michael Lee gave the buyers a partial win by finding the developers guilty of misleading and deceptive conduct. But the judge found the buyers failed in their claims for statutory compensation, unconscionability, and breach of contract. Justice Lee found some of the owners were eligible for restitutional relief, while others were not. He then considered further the submissions for each claimant, depending on their individual circumstances. Last week, the judge ordered Belconnen Lakeview pay an owner $29,000, which comprised of $23,000 plus interest of $6,500. It is not known how many of the others in the 352 residential apartment complex may also benefit from the decision. The case, however, could continue, with Justice Lee noting the developer had raised the prospect of an appeal in submissions filed to court earlier this month. Meanwhile, the parties in the Grosvenor Place class action have agreed to settle the case for $2.5 million. After costs and fees, the buyers will get a share of about $715,000. Just think about that, guys. That's what they've settled for. $2.5 million. That's what they're getting a share for. How disappointed would you be if you said, okay, we're going to settle for $2.5 million and you only get $700,000? $700,000. We're in the wrong business. How do you get a slice of this cost and fees, everyone? Lawyers need to, particularly Canberra lawyers, they need to be paid, everyone. The court will be asked to give the settlement the green light in June. And the possibility of more cases, guys. A third case against developer Graham Potts by 38 Acuna Proprietary Limited, which built Manhattan on the Park, is currently before the federal court. Justice Lee last year ordered the registration of 38 Acuna Proprietary Limited, a deregistered subsidiary of Amalgamated Properties Group, be reinstated. The judge also appointed new liquidators to the company, and the case is listed to next appear in court in October. So, there we have it, guys. What do you think? What do you think? Is it fair for the developers? Think about it. If you've got a set price, the price is this much for the property, and the fact that a portion of it is GST or not, is that relevant? Is that relevant? But 10% of the sale price of a property is a big chunk of a project, guys. It's a big chunk of a project. So, it's interesting. You think they should advertise it with property price and then GST there. You'd think they would. Maybe that's a requirement. Well, we'll have to see where this all ends. Are you surprised, guys? I can't say I'm not particularly surprised. Because, well, the developers are aimed to maximize their profit in some of these projects. The biggest issue is they're not long-term holders of the buildings, and that can be the conflict of interest right there. Anyway, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support us, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel here on YouTube or on Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and KuCoin. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, buy our merch from Heiser Says, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time.